we're going to have some fun now because we're going to show you a couple of our new products. We're going to start with NevronMotion first. So the first thing we're going to show is going to be an interesting example, but here are a few slides just showing some of the interaction that NevronMotion does. So it uses the Connect camera from Microsoft to do body capture, facial capture, and essentially anything can be driven, any animation channel can be driven with your body. Here are the highlights of features of the NevronMotion system. You see a live rig motion with the Connect camera is one feature, but you can also use any motion capture file and retarget. NevronMotion plugin allows you to retarget motions from anything onto rigs very easily. You can also easily adjust the motion capture file by animating a layer on top of it to add motion or adjust the shoulder, for example. It's very easy. It comes with preset rigs, and one of those rigs has the same naming convention as the Motion Builder or the Human IK rig. So it's very interchangeable with the standard workflows at most motion capture facilities. In addition, you can retarget and set up a template for your own custom rig and save that template so you never have to set up the retargeting again. And then you can also bake that motion onto a character rig. So that animation from a motion file can be baked onto the rig in LightWave. So here you can see in LightWave's interface what the combination of Virtual Studio, which we've added in recent versions of LightWave, and the NevronMotion plugin allows you to do. So Lino's going to show you how he can drive a texture channel and displacement with his body motion.
Okay. So basically I can control one procedural texture using my right hand and the other using my left hand. I just raise up one end and the displacement appears.
Remember, this performance can also be recorded. So his live performance can be recorded as an animation channel as well.
And I can also move the hand on the XZ plane and control the texture movement on those planes. So we can combine the two things.
So the cool thing about this is it brings body motion performance as another driver for any animation channel that you want. This is another example. Lino's going to show you how he can use his head to control where the camera is looking in this animation.
We have a smoothing parameter that let us make the motion smoother, and now I'm going to use it. I set it to 7. You can see how fluid it can be, and of course this performance can be recorded, or multiple performances.
Another thing that maybe we should show too, because I realized when we went to a couple of the studios that they weren't aware of this new thing that we added. For Virtual Studio stuff, which is kind of, it's really kind of my baby from the work that I did before. We put the Virtual Studio into LightWave, and NevronMotion and other things interact with Virtual Studio to make this kind of thing possible. So one thing that we added, if you're using Virtual Studio for real-time feedback and you want to be walking through a set, for example, or doing something that has transparencies, we added a feature where you can go in to the basic settings in your display preferences, and you can see how we have alpha clipping mode. So alpha clipping mode will allow you to, when you have a lot of transparencies, it will make the OpenGL feedback very fast. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that that exists, because it dramatically speeds up your interaction when you're dealing with Virtual Studio. Not in this case, because there's not much transparency, but generally. So now you can see another example of how we are using Lino's face to control the character's performance. This is driving morph channels and bone displacements in the character in real time. So the performance can be puppeted and recorded. The cool thing about this is, you can very quickly, with most motion capture systems, oftentimes you have to recalibrate if you change the performer. But we're going to show you how easy using something like the Connect. So we need a volunteer from the audience to come up. Somebody want to come up here? The Connect is very easy to change performers, and you don't have to recalibrate. close the window. So you can see how, like a typical motion capture system, you would never be able to do that. You could never swap performers like that. So it's just a very cool, you know, in addition to NevronMotion doing body capture, you can do facial, you can control the channels of any parameter, you can control cameras. The Virtual Studio and NevronMotion brings motion capture, retargeting and editing, and the support for the Microsoft Connect. Now, there's a new version of Microsoft Connect coming, and when that's released, it will have more functionality. But whatever the Connect camera supports, we support. Thank you so much for your performance, and we're going to give you a LightWave t-shirt.
お礼にライトウェーブの T シャツを。
Joanna, can we get a picture? Thank you for doing that so much. Just wait right here, she's going to take a
ぜ
picture.
ひ写真を一緒に撮らせてください。
Domo. Thank you. So the thing we want to show next is Lino was, you know, conceptually leading the development of the Genoma rigging system. And the Genoma rigging system can be very powerful with many of the workflows that we've seen here on our visit. We want to show you a little bit about how Genoma works in a short demo before we show another feature of 11.6.
The concept behind Genoma is that you can build a creature rig, not just a human rig, using parts of rigs, different parts of rig. From the Genoma panel in Modeler, you can select different subparts and more complex ones like quadruped or human bipeds. And those complex rigs have been built using the simple ones. So this is a very important concept. So we can choose, for example, to load this preset, and you can see how it's going color wireframe mode. All the different skeletons have different colors to better identify the functionality of every skeleton. So if I save this as an object, let's call it test, and send it to layout, I can click on create rig. Yeah, in some seconds you will see the rig. So we have a root to move the center of gravity of the character. We have full control over the posing. We can pose the leg. And what is cool is that it's possible, if we come back in Modeler, to use any Modeler tool, because we're dealing with skeletons, to modify and edit the actual structure of this rig. What I'm going to do now is to use the magnet tool to do some big change. Now we have a very different creature. You can see in the perspective view that the morphology has changed completely. We can go back in layout and use update rig this time because the object is already present in the scene. And of course now we have the extra same functionality about the controls and the bones, but with the new morphology. We have an example here of a spider that has been rigged using this preset, this Genoma preset, and animated. Let's go in.
And the concept also with Genoma is to allow users ultimately to create their own custom rig, because we know that you use a lot of FK, not IK, and save your preset the way that you want it to be, or the part of a rig, just parts that you like, your setup, and be able to reuse them over and over again as little pieces, like Lego pieces.
We can very quickly take a look at how to build a very simple hierarchy. We can start from the preset panel and add a root as a very first step for our character. The basic concept behind Genoma is related to connectors. A connector is, you can see it in this orange skeleton. A connector lets you connect different parts,
Yes.
like Lego, right? It's exactly like Rob was saying, and between them. What I'm going to do now is to add another subrig and connect it to this root. I will choose, let's see, I can choose this kind of control. To connect two subrigs, you have to use the weld tool, so that's a concept very near to modeling. And you can connect any base. You can see some kind of a null here to the tip of a connector. So let's weld them. And let's take a look at what I have till now, just sending this to the modeler, to layout, sorry. All I have to do is to create rig. We have a master automatically created, and the controls relative to the subrigs I added. So I can translate and rotate the root control, or I can rotate this control and get this kind of motion. Now let's add some IK element like leg. So again, let's open the Genoma preset, and let's add this insect leg 01 preset. I can position it as I want. Of course, I can edit any part of the rig, so I can adapt it to the mesh I have in the same layer. We can also create connectors, just selecting the tip of a connector and the base of this newly added subrig, and hitting passive. So a connector has been created. Now we can check the situation again in layout, simply sending the object I'm going here, and I can update the rig. The new element that's been added, and of course now, since this is an IK rig, I'm going to get the typical IK behavior. What is cool is that since we are dealing with skeletons, we can use modeling tools, not only to edit them, but even to mirror them or copy and paste them. So it's really, really fast to select all the skeletons belonging to this hierarchy and mirror them. So let's save again, let's update again. And now I have two legs. So you can see how they are responding. We can even move hierarchies, of course, and scale them.
Again, there's no reason why, if you have if you prefer FK and not IK, you still can use, the concept is that presets will allow you to do whatever type of rig that you prefer.
So let's do something more. I'm going to copy these skeletons, those skeletons, and rotating them like this, and probably moving it here, and coming them back in layer 1. So let's create another connector to connect this new leg. Let's mirror it again. So we very quickly can add other two legs to this rig. So now we have 4 legs. It's really fast. You can save the object and reload it to use the same hierarchical structure for another character that can be completely different in proportions. So this was, were the basics of Genoma, of the Genoma rigging system. We'll come back to Genoma with showing the new Spline IK, the new spline control. So let's talk about the spline control. Ival made a beautiful job describing it. And I'm going to load exactly the scene he was playing with, the one with shark. Really, creating this scene, it's so fast. You can start from scratch, just with the model, and in 2 minutes, you can have this kind of animation done. So we can probably go through it. So this object originally was composed by several layers. I'm going to merge them just in 1 layer. So we have shark, 1 layer object saved. And I'm going to clear the scene. We can export this object. And all I will do is to add a very simple bond hierarchy to this object. Very, very, very simple. So let's do this. I don't want this bond to affect the deformation, so I'm going to set the strength 0.
I would also like to point out that we're demonstrating this on a laptop that is about 1.5 to 2 years old, right?
Yeah.
So we don't want the LightWave technology to require such heavy hardware to work. If you have a great workstation with a pro-level graphics card, it's great. It's even faster. But just recognize that we're doing this on an average level laptop.
And of course now I arrested the bond, so we're ready to deform the object with just a very simple chain. And I mean, simplicity, it's the key to work in a very relaxed way. So that's important. So what we can do now is to create the path to animate our shark, and it's easy like that. We're going to use the spline drill tool here. Okay, so I think this is enough. We can, of course, edit the path so it's a little more exciting. And I'm going to save this curve and load it in layout. And I'm going to use the wonderful script by Jennifer Michigan in Python that lets you create a spline control from a curve, which is amazing.
So one of our new team members, Jen Hichigian, created a Python-based script that allows you to take a spline, created a modeler, and generate the spline control setup.
So I'm going to use this curve to spline tool. Okay, I changed the scale, the grid size, because it was huge. And all I can do now is to select, of course, this plugin is creating the hierarchy needed to set up spline control. All I have to do is to select all the bonds in the rig, I mean in the very simple rig I made, and assign spline control. Now I can animate the first bond of the rig on the z-axis to get the animation, which is pretty amazing. We can even go further, probably. Right, it's okay, let's stop at 120. We can, if we don't like the dorsal fin to be deformed so much, of course we can add another bond, an anchor bond. Okay, and now we will see in the animation that only the part where the bond is not present is deforming according to the spline. So that was extremely easy to set up. Of course, we have generated the spline control from a curve we draw in layout, but we can control and animate any element of the spline control. We were not joking. We really did it in minutes, a couple of minutes, 3 minutes, I don't know. So let's load this scene. Okay, that's nice. Tentacle. So I made a subpart, a Genoma sub-rig dedicated to spline control. And I would like to show it to you. I'm going to clear the scene and send this object to layout. And all I have to do is to create a rig. It's very fast. Okay. And of course, I have a lot of bonds here. You can see how little they are. And controls I can use to animate it. So I have two kind of controls in this case. Those spheres used to create this kind of. But maybe we have even too many bonds, too many controls. Sometimes you don't need this kind of extreme control. We can even do this kind of animation using the additional controls created. Clicking on settings on this gizmo here, you can use the rename skeleton to change the number of bonds and controls. So control numbers, let's say we want just 4, and bond number, let's make 32. So I can save this and
保
update
存
the
し
rig.
て、
Now, of course, I have less bones and just 4 controls. Something very interesting we can do, we just say that we can edit Genoma rigs using any modeler tool. So we can do the same with the associated geometry. So I'm going to stretch this tentacle and the rig all at once. The object is automatically updated. We know LightWave works that way. And to update the rig, you just have to click. So this was something not so easy to animate in LightWave. This tool really allows for several uses because we have seen a creature animated along a path and a tentacle. And just to close on spline control, I would like to show you this animation. This is a pretty complex rig, of course. You can see this walk cycle here. So we have IK arms and spline control attached.
And I'll just point out that that really cool rig and design is done by Lino. So we want to talk about ChronoSculpt right now. ChronoSculpt is one of our new 3 products that we just released at SIGGRAPH this year, announced at SIGGRAPH and released at the end of October. So is Ino-san still here? I can't see. Yes? Hi.
さんいらっしゃいますでしょうか。
Hello. So Ino was on the LightWave development team before I worked at NewTek, and one of the things that he innovated is the MDD geometry cache format, along with some of my personal favorite features that I've always used for 20 plus years in LightWave, like hard effects, soft effects, the particle innovation, whatever else am I leaving out?
IK booster.
IK booster. You know, this is all Ino-san's innovation. And I would also point out that because of Ino-san's innovation, NewTek was the first company to offer a commercially available geometry cache format in the industry. So MDD, by default, became kind of the industry standard that was used in XSI and Houdini and other applications, all using the MDD geometry cache format that was included in LightWave. This is very similar to proprietary pipelines that studios like Walt Disney Feature Animation use to get their geometry files through the pipeline. It's the same concept. Geometry cache is the really super reliable technique to make sure that nothing changes as it goes through the pipeline between different applications. What lead developer David Ikeda and hi David, and myself and Lino worked together, and David really did amazing work on ChronoSculpt, which is a new product. Now I want to explain what ChronoSculpt is conceptually, so you all understand the thinking behind what the purpose is. I also want to point out David Forstenleitner, one of our other great developers, worked closely with David Ikeda and did amazing work, as he has done on the interchange tools and so many other things in LightWave. So he's also a great team member that we're very proud of. But in concept, ChronoSculpt takes, if you think about animation in general with 3D, it's vertices being pushed through space in some way, whether it is bones or morphs or geometry cache or dynamic simulations with rigid body and soft body. All of that is taking vertices and polygons and everything attached, UVs, surfaces, shading, and moving it through space in some way. So what ChronoSculpt innovates is adding a nonlinear timeline to allow you to deform geometry, create morph clips, create load MDD or geometry cache files from 3D Max or Maya or other applications, and blend all of that in a timeline that allows you to really work with organic characters or dynamics. And we want to show you how you can use ChronoSculpt with sculpting tools to control your deformations and animations over time. I love this. I mean, I have to tell you, working with dynamics And like I said, for over 20 years, using the tools that Lino put in initially with hard effects, soft effects, and MDD has been one of my personal secret weapons working in Hollywood for over 20 years. ChronoSculpt unlocks that, and let me show you some cool things. So those of you who've worked with dynamic simulations like rigid body and soft body know that those oftentimes are a challenge to get perfect. So what we're looking at here is a dynamic rigid simulation with bullet dynamics from LightWave, and we're going to use the brush tools, pin, which I'm going to size up easily. So now, because we've pinned those items, we have changed the simulation instantly, in seconds. You can select things that you want to add to the simulation, and you can really change the look of dynamic simulations instantly. So this is a very cool tool using geometry cache concept, MDD in this case, in a nonlinear timeline with sculpting brush tools to allow you to make changes instantly. The other thing I'm going to show you is how, because there's a nonlinear timeline that can blend layers, much like you would in After Effects or Photoshop, I can use a brush tool in this case to distort the shape of this bridge. Let's say it was in a war zone or some kind of city, global mode. Oh, great. That allows me to show you the undo feature because I just did that in a clip mode, and I want to do it global. So the deformation has been done in a global mode, so the entire deformation is happening on the object that's been changed. So if we make the change on a global edit mode, it affects the entire timeline. If you turn it off, it's going to animate that just at a certain point. So it's not just for rigid body dynamics. You can do this with soft bodies. You can do this with character deformations. We're going to show you. So it's a blending timeline, a nonlinear timeline for morphs and for geometry cache for dynamics as well. So you saw the performance earlier that Lino was doing with the Connect. This is a performance recorded.
And this is I mean, we have
almost
no, I'm not selecting the right one.
400,000 polys on this object, almost. But for ChronoSculpt, because we have a new geometry engine, it's nothing. You can push around 5 million, 10 million polys, 20 million polys in here. It's not a problem.
So let's say we want to add some variation, because we recorded this performance using the Kinect, and as you can see, the poses are symmetrical. We can work on it, and for example here, we could add, using the Dragnet tool, I can adjust the brush size with the right mouse button, and I can add this kind of subtle variation, not so subtle really.
And you see how it's added a clip to the timeline. So because he doesn't have the global mode selected, it's adding another morph on top of this MDD geometry cache animation. So you can easily grab the vertice point. He just created a second morph, and it's layering this in a nonlinear fashion and blending all of this together. So you see how we can quickly drag and time scale, time stretch the deformations so that the morph that's affecting this can be longer or shorter, so it's coming up over a certain length of time controlled by this clip. You can also see how I'm controlling the ease in and ease out on the curve by adjusting these parameters. What we have here is a nonlinear timeline that allows you to blend these performances. This can be saved as a project that will maintain the separate clips of the timeline, or you can save and export an MDD or geometry cache file to bake it all into one animation and back to LightWave or your other applications. So one of the things that I want to point out that is so useful for ChronoSculpt also is character variations. So if you have a library of characters already that you've set up morph targets on, you can bake out the animation on them to an MDD, load it into ChronoSculpt, and do a different concept for a character. Let's quickly adjust him in setup mode. So I'm just going to do something kind of silly here just to show you. But if we go back into our animation out of setup mode, you can see that all of that deformation of the performance is taking into account these changes. Symmetry mode is going to allow you to make those changes in a symmetrical fashion on both sides of the model. And I'm going to use, if you change the strength here, you can see how we could quickly get a very kind of pronounced kind of effect. It's kind of a cool way to take certain characters that you may have with animation, with a morph performance, do variations on them, and you can really play with this conceptually. Now, the global editing mode is a mode that also affects all of the timeline, but it allows you to do that on a particular frame that's deformed by the MDD so that you can make the sculpt changes with the deformation of the MDD in front of you. So that's kind of a cool way, to show you how ChronoSculpt, because it's dealing with point deformations, point cache, morph targets, a nonlinear timeline, it can be so helpful for dynamic simulations, fixing problems, characters. I would also mention that you could save out an endomorph directly from any frame of that to LightWave. So this is a case where we're going to be doing we did a soft body simulation. I ran this on a different car. It's a totally different shape. So we're going to show you how fast you can correct a dynamic simulation of soft bodies or cloth. And this allows you to do a simulation that's 80% okay, and then use ChronoSculpt to make it perfect within seconds. So we're going to go into global edit mode and use the brush sculpting tools to correct this simulation, which if you've ever had to do a skirt on a character, you can get the perfect cloth move, but one frame or one section will be intersecting the knee and causing a problem. But if you resimulate, it changes everything. So next time you have a different problem. Well, ChronoSculpt eliminates that workflow barrier. Okay, I would also point out that we're using a mouse to do this, to control the brush. If you're really working, you're going to use a Wacom tablet most likely. But you see how easy this is. So what was that, like 30 seconds it took you to fix that? So if you've worked in soft body dynamic simulations, you know how long it takes to calculate this stuff. This shows you how quickly you could fix and address problems, and you save this file back out as an MDD or a geometry cache for Autodesk products, and it is just a fast method for correcting this. One last thing that we want to show you is another example of the innovative tools in ChronoSculpt that allow you to speed up your workflow. Oftentimes you'll have a director come after a simulation has happened, and they will say that they like everything, but just change one little piece. Well, if you do dynamic simulations, it's so hard to do that, because if you resimulate, you change parameters, the next simulation will change everything else. So I'm going to play the part of the CG director, and I'm coming into the studio, and Lino is the nervous animator, okay? Can you play for me, please? I want to see what you've done here. I love it, I love it, I love it. Oh, I hate it, I hate it. No, how could you make the cube fall off the edge, you idiot?
I can fix that. I can fix that.
You have no talent.
I can fix that.
Yes, it's going to take hours and hours and days. I'm going to have to re-simulate this again.
No, seconds.
Oh, come on.
Seconds.
Okay.
I can use the pin tool. So it's about to fall
Stop,
down.
stop, stop.
I stop here.
Yes.
I select the pin tool, and I click on it.
Okay.
And now I have
Okay.
this.
Oh!
Yeah, and I can adjust.
No re-simulation?
No.
No time?
No, I can even.
You're
adjust.
hired!
Yes!
You get a promotion!
Best prize! Yatta!
So you can see how the tools in ChronoSculpt combine several different types of concepts from the past, building on beautiful Ino-san's work, working with David Ikeda's brilliance to bring all this together with a concept that is really, really revolutionary. I can tell you when we were at SIGGRAPH, it was just pulling every crowd possible to see this, because you take the concept of sculpting with brushes, dynamic simulation, character morph targets, fixing this stuff so quickly. This tool is amazing, and it works with all applications. It's a standalone application. We support Alembic, Autodesk Geometry Cache, MDD, which is obviously the better choice in my opinion, because we can export OBJs for blend shapes. you can save one frame, any frame, to an endomorph for the object. So it's very flexible. The other thing that you may have noticed how with ChronoSculpt, Lino's been dragging and dropping files into the interface. You don't have to load the files. If you just drag the LightWave object or the OBJ and the cache file over to the scene, it automatically sets it up. So I would just say this is, a demo of ChronoSculpt, which is a new product from us this year. I don't know what's happening. Number 2, are we there? Is it still me? Yeah, do it. All right. Imagine that says ChronoSculpt. The cool thing is this is a product that is built on our new architecture concept of Hydra, which David has been working on. And it's green. No. It's done. Okay. I wanted to pull this back up. This doesn't come up? Just the highlight? No? I guess not. It's not showing, huh? Okay. Anyway, so ChronoSculpt basically brings all of those things together and allows you to use it with any application. So, it's version 1 of the product, and I just want you to recognize that the geometry engine allows you to push around amazing amounts of data very efficiently. Again, we've done demos at the studios on my Surface, which is a tablet. So it's not super powerful. If you have a workstation and you're using ChronoSculpt, it's going to be crazy. It's so cool. I'll do a complex one because we want to see probably the creature. I'm going to drag over the bridge, for example. You saw we got a warning for the GPU because there's no standalone GPU. This is Intel on the motherboard. So I'm going to go to global editing mode. I'm going to drag and drop. I'm going to do that.
A tablet.
I mean, this is a tablet. Not so heavy requirements. Very efficient. David Ikeda, thank you. Very efficient polygon engine in this product based on our Hydra technology. Great.
ロブさん、リノさん、ありがとうございました。
Thank you.